Tak, dobrý večer, přátelé, dobrý večer. Jdeme dneska na chviličku zase pokračovat do BioShocku, přesně tam, kde jsme to opustili. A uvidíme. Možná, že se podíváme dneska do finále a jenom takhle houlince budu doufat, že teda se fakt z nás nestane prostě jenom jeden z dalších Big Daddyů tady. Že nás to fakt jako, že nás tady nikdo nepodrazí další. Tak, zkusíme si tady párkrát nějaký save. To hnedka na první pokus. OK, dobře. Tak, co tam bude zajímavého? Tak, co ještě potřebujeme? Co nám ještě chybí? Jo, ještě musíme smrdět, potřebujeme boty a hlas.
Free market, free will, and free men.
I wish they would die. Don't like them when they're surveyed. Unacceptable.
You'll open this door.
I'm open!
None of these other chumps will talk to me. Think I'm a freak. To hell with them! Oh, come on.
Where? Darling, are you hungry? Hands up, or you monster!
Bych potřeboval jednu rovnou nahoru. Minimálně. Teďka bych potřeboval jednu sem do strany. Tohle to musíme udělat. Ať se nám tady nedostává trubiček.
Find a better hiding place, monster. I can. More.
Ryan sent over extra munitions. He must have suspected trouble. I will lock them up near the protector labs and set the code to 1921. I don't expect we'll ever be needing them, though. Once Big Daddy is ready, nobody cross the Big Daddy.
1921. Si stejně nebudu pamatovat. Za chviličku. No to samý.
two-way street. The crowd's holding auditions for the Frankenstein parade, and you're first in line.
Lehce z toho mám strach. Že jako fakt. Při nebourání o 4 políčka přetížení méně. Při nebourání o 4 poplachová políčka méně. Stroj na úpravu hrtanu. Fakt jdeme do toho. No, nic jiného nám nezbyde. Než že se z nás prostě stane Big Daddy asi.
Good. Now it is time to locate some pheromones to change your smell. And you will also need to locate those booths.
Tak, potřebuji tady z toho něco, hele, piráty, určitě si piráta nějakýho udělám. To jsme toho vyrobili. Miliardu věcí do zásoby tady budeme mít.
Don't! I'm not a failure! I just want to talk! Hey! You only get both of us!
Kdyby mě lehce nevylekali teda. Šmejí slavové. Tam asi nepotřebuju.
Atlas is a friend of the parasite. Don't be a friend of Atlas.
Come on!
Potřebujeme boty a ty feromony. Ale nemám nejmenší tušení, kde to máme sehnat. Z něho to zcela evidentně nezískáme.
your attitude? You'll open this. Come on!
Takže tohle to už mám prolezlý tady babilionkrát, ale...
I didn't mean to hurt anyone!
No jedno a to samý.
Shame things turned out this way, kid. You and me could have run the table in this place. Now there's nothing left for you but a long, cold nothing.
A Rapture reminder. We all have bills to pay, and the temptation to break curfew to make a little extra added is forgivable. Breaking the curfew is not. Stay on the level and out of trouble.
Andrew Ryan asks you a simple question. Are you a man or
What's the matter, Mary?
We bred little ones to imprint to certain smells, pheromones. But this is not like putting on aftershave. You will need 3 industrial applications of this stuff, and then the little ones will be drawn to you like a bee to honey. You will have to gather 3 pheromones here, so that you smell disgusting, just like a big daddy.
me too far, kid. When you're cold and stiff, I'm gonna go over to Mother Goose's house and I'm gonna take it apart, piece by piece and brat by brat. Consider it your legacy.
Jestli mám čas. Já jsem tu myslel, že tady prolezem.
Mama's gone. Gone now. You can come out.
Always slows things down. Oh, God damn it. Someone get the nurse.
Jak to vymyslet?
Men all complain about their virility. I can make them soft and sometimes I do.
Když to jde, ty vado. Pak už je to nejde.
That took my baby.
Shut it on Saturday! I don't want to hurt you. Or sometimes I have to. Toxic! Cut him!
Každopádně už vydáváme zvuky, jak by ready.
My...
I can only be glad I am nowhere near you and that awful stink. Why the little ones are drawn to the smell of those pheromones is beyond anything I can understand.
Skryj se v díře, jasně.
Can't they see that? Yeah!
Co kdybych ho příště jako trefil normálně, a ne, že ho jako prostřelím. Těsně mezi nohama. Tak si prostě ustlal, ne? Nožku přes nožku tady.
I know why it has to be children, but why just girls? This I cannot determine why, but I know it is so. Fontaine says, one less bathroom to build in the orphanage. It is amazing to watch the effect of Adam on their small bodies. Their own cells replaced by the new stems the instant they are damaged. These children are practically invulnerable. It is a shame you could not do the same thing to an adult. There would be quite a market for a man you could not kill.
The little ones. I wish they would die. I don't like them when they're filthy.
She's so stubborn.
Ne, tam nechci, musíme to tady ještě udělat. Ještě
Out here to meet a lady. They don't care how nice you are. The money. Lies. The money. Quiet. Who's there? I'm good looking. Did they see that? Your sister? Your cousin? I don't give a shit. I must be hearing things. Things. Rings. None of these other chumps will talk to me. Think I'm a freak. The hell with them! You're the little beauty,
Jo, takže jsou ty stupní dveře, kudy bychom normálně přišli.
All I want to do is meet someone. But this fucking place is poison.
Nic?
But I sent her flowers every day, and she always sent them back. You call that gratitude? Get it out! Get it out!
Ještě jeden tady někde se prostě musí máme. Ale
I hear the squawk of the voice box. I can only imagine how you must smell with those awful pheromones. Once you find those Frankenstein boots, you will be ready.
You know, you should be thanking me. I brought you here. I showed you who you are. Nobody never told you nothing but lies till I come along. Has Mother Goose really got her hooks into you? You can knock Ryan all you want, but the old man was bingo on one point of fact. You won't even walk till somebody says go.
Lord, I shall see. I shall possess with
se chci podívat na...
Why are you leaving me?
Tady někde vidím. Já řekl, že bych tady někde měl vidět zase nějaký ty duchy nebo něco takového, ne?
Please, Papa Sutra, I don't want to go on the table.
Konečně, ho něco trefilo. Boty. Mendelovy vědecká knihovna. Mendelova vědecká knihovna. Tak kde pak je vědecká knihovna? Little Wonders. Jsou malé zázraky. Tohle to by mohla být. Knihovna genetických modifikací. Kde jsou nějaký boty?
What is the greatest lie ever created? What is the most vicious obscenity ever perpetrated on mankind? Slavery, the Holocaust, dictatorship. No.
Ty má, proč ho nezujou prostě?
The parasite hates three things: free markets, free will, and free men.
Třeba... Buď to dovnitř, anebo tamhle nahoru bych se potřeboval dostat. Možná. Jasně. Přesně to, kam potřebujeme. Tak, je to rychle odemknout. Tyhle, ta cesta byla tudyma. Ne, nebyla tudyma, tudyma byla. Já potřebuji ale jednu rovnou. Ta cesta byla tudyma. Aha, takhle. Jak to bylo? Aha. Myslím, že to je věž. Značně zvyšuje poškození získané díky výzkumům. Hola.
Yes. Now this is a big daddy. Are you ready? Now go to the little sister vent by the proving ground.
I got Rapture now. I've got the Atom now. You think that pill suit's even half enough to put the spear in me?
Dopadně z nás Big Daddy.
You need to bring them out of hiding and then they'll let you in the door. Go on, hit the vent with your wrench. would mean very much to me if you will be gentle with the girls. Mein kleines Mädchen. The little ones will lead you to Fontaine, but you must protect them.
Hurry, Mr. B. I can see the angel dancing in the sky.
It's been a long road. You don't even remember most of it. Put you on a sub when you were just a sprout.
Potřeboval bych nějaký tyhle ty. Pomoci do té kuše.
Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. Angels don't wait for slowpokes. Time to go, Mr. B. Hurry! Hurry, Mr. Bubbles!
I really wound you up with that wife and child bit. Oh, me poor Moira. I me wee baby Patrick. Maybe one day I'll get me a real family. They play well with the suckers.
Time to go, Mr. B. Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. Angels don't wait for slowpokes. Hurry! Hurry, Mr. Bubbles! Hurry, Mr. B!
Everything will work out. Just you wait.
Even though they are physically free of the need to gather, Tuchong's mental conditioning still holds them to their terrible task. For sins such as these, you can never atone.
I know you dazzling child. Who's that?
Time to go, Mr.
Did I just dream you? Or were you real?
Adam, Mr. B. Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B.
Listen to your doctor!
Angels Mr. B. No time to waste.
No! Must have dreamt.
Hurry, Mr. B. I can see the angel dancing in the sky. Mr. Bubbles.
Who bred you?
Hop, hop, Mr. B. No time to waste. Time to go, Mr. B. Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B.
Watch
Angels
out!
don't
The
wait for
certain they're harvesting will draw the attention of the Splicers.
Mr. B. Hurry, Mr. B. Angels Hurry, Mr. B. I can see the angel dancing in the sky. Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. Angels don't like a slowpoke.
Shut the fuck up!
Mr. B, no time to wait. Hurry, Mr. B. Angels are waiting for our ticket. I'm ready for dream time. Hurry. Hurry, Mr.
Pak se z nás prostě stal Big Daddy. Ze všem všudy.
Bubbles? Hurry, Mr. B. I can see the angel dancing in the sky. Hurry, Mr. B. I can see the angels dancing in the sky. Time to go, Mr. B.
A Rapture reminder. We all have those. On a temptation to break curfew to make a little extra added is forgiven.
Chyba.
Hop, hop, Mr. B.
Sakra, sakra, dobře, musíme jít rovnou nahoru. Já nemám prostě doprava. Tohle je hustý. My můžeme jedině nahoru. Tak doprava. Tak už jenom. Dobře.
Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. Angels don't wait for slowpokes.
Dobře, můžeme jít cestou sem. Tady nahoru. Doprava. A musíme jít prostě tudyma spodem. Jo, to byla ta správná cesta.
Time to go, Mr. B. Hurry! Hurry, Mr. Bubbles! Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. Angels don't wait for slowpokes. Hurry! Hurry, Mr. Bubbles! Time to go, Mr. B. Mr. B. Angels are waiting for our kisses. Hurry, Mr. B. I can see the angels dancing in the sky.
Tyhle za ní to lekání.
will draw the attention of the Splicers.
Time to go, Mr. B. Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. I'm a Hurry, Mr. B. I can see an angel dancing in the sky. Help me! He hurt! He hurt! Hop, hop, Mr. B. No time to waste. Hurry! Hurry, Mr. Bubbles! Kill him! Time to go, Mr. B. Hurry! Hurry, Mr. Bubbles! Hurt him, Mr. B! Hurt him! Hurry, Mr. B. I can see an angel dancing in the sky.
Better for the girls to be with you. Better with you than alone. Alone
Don't
in
be
the
a
crawling
slowpoke,
darkness.
Mr. B. Angels don't wait for slowpokes.
Mně jakože brutálně dochází munice. Budeme muset přejít na něco jiného.
Hop, hop, Mr. B. No time to waste. Hurry, Mr. B. Angels are waiting for our kisses. Time to go, Mr. B.
bookshelves and the pencil pushes, but I need more. More! I want to splice till there ain't nothing left to splice with!
We all make choices, but in the end, our choices make
Fontaine is nearby. You are reaching close now.
Mr. Ten.
Hop, Mr. B. No time to...
Tak kde seš?
There. You must use the needle of the little sister to drain Fontaine of his Adam. It is the only way to defeat him. Fontaine waits above. There will be no going back from here. Make sure you are ready to face him before moving on.
Ahoj, finální boss fight. OK. Tak vteřinečku, na to si odskočím. Přátelé, jdeme na nějakou pravděpodobně finální bitku.
Ignore the lies of Atlas and his parasites. Rapture is on the rise.
Čím co hrotem, hele, berem. Zápalný šíp. Pár normálních broků. Pro těch zápalných teda. Jo. Uděláme velký save a jdeme na to. Velký. Jeden quick.
Remember when me and the crowd put you in that sub? You were no more than 2. You were my ace in the hole, but you were also the closest thing I ever had to a son. And that's why this hurts. Betrayal, kid. Life ain't strictly business.
Come on now, kid. You want to get serious? Come and get it, Here it is!
To vysnul. Znovu jsem ho vysnul.
Catch my breath. And I'm gonna bury you and all them little eggs.
Go! Go now! Hit him with the needle!
Jsem to už vyhnul.
You buster! I'll get you! I'll put you down! Here it is! Come and get it, Mook! I'm ready for you! You little nothing! Need a minute. you into bits.
What are you waiting for? Hit him with the needle!
Come again! You think I'm alone in this world? I got more than enough mugs to watch my back while I recharge. This is what I get. You think you got a shot at this? I'm barely getting started. I had you built. I sent you topside. I called you back, showed you what you was capable of. Even that life you thought you had, that was something I dreamed up and had tattooed inside your head. Now, if you don't call that family, I don't know what is. And now,
They offered you this city. And you refused it. And what did you do instead? What I've come to expect of you. You saved them. You gave them the one thing that was stolen from them. A chance. A chance to learn. To find love. To live. And in the end, what was your reward? You never said. But I think I know. A family.
Ura! Ura! Tak jo, máme to za sebou. Tak nakonec se z nás nestal jakože úplně Big Daddy. Nebyl tam ještě jeden poslední závěrečný podraz. A nakonec díky tomu, že jsme je zachraňovali, tak oni potom pomohli zachránit nás. A nakonec to dopadlo dobře. OK. Dneska to byla rychlovka, to jsem čekal, že nás bude čekat ještě trochu toho víc. Ale nevadí. Neděle večer. Myslím si, že to bylo takový jakože akorát. Takový krátký zakončení toho BioShocku 1. No, přátelé, a od dalšího streamu nás čeká dvojka teda. Budeme se podívat, co vymysleli ve dvojce. Ať na to navážeme. Tak, zkusíme odsud odejít. A komentáře tvůrců, našli jsme tam nějaký ty videjka. Jsem tam, ne úplně všechny. Daný filmový kotouč jste ještě nezískal. Stronec v hlubinách, kontrola reality, svět plný témat, morální dilema.
To kill, excuse me, to harvest or not to harvest. The moral dilemma that follows you throughout the BioShock experience and defines the fate of the player. This choice lays at the center of your BioShock story and has repercussions that can be felt in nearly every facet of the gameplay. Part of BioShock's lasting legacy, of course, are the Little Sisters and this moral choice that presented itself to the player. Everyone became a water cooler conversation about like, well, did you save them? Did you harvest them? That concept, Ken, was that something that came about early in development, or that binary choice? When did that come into the game?
I don't remember when. I mean, we had the concept of them being protected, but I can't remember when you actually
certainly
chose.
wasn't. When there were slugs, it was not meaningful. I think there was.
Do you salt it? Do you not salt it?
There were resources that you could get, but there was no choice there, right? The choice was, do I want to fight the Big Daddy or not?
Yeah.
I think once we got into the realm of, they have to be empathetic, the player has to have some feeling.
To nemůžu jako jenom tak pauznout.
To kill, excuse me.
Nemůžu. OK.
To kill, excuse me.
Tak se na to musíme podívat bez pauzy.
The moral dilemma that follows you throughout the BioShock experience and defines the fate of the player. This choice lays at the center of your BioShock story and has repercussions that can be felt in nearly every facet of the gameplay. Part of BioShock's lasting
Tak, finále dohráno. Tak už jen bonus videa. Tak, už to. Save. Finále dohráno, už jen bonus videa. Tak. Jdem dokoukat těch pár, co jsme našli, tak se na ně podíváme.
legacy, of course, are the Little Sisters and this moral choice that presented itself to the player. Everyone became a water cooler conversation about like, well, did you save them? Did you harvest them? That concept, Ken, was that something that came about early in development, or that binary choice? When did that come into the game?
I don't remember when. I mean, we had the concept of them being protected, but I can't remember when you actually
certainly
chose.
wasn't. When there were slugs, it was not meaningful. I think there was.
Do you salt it? Do you not salt it?
There were resources that you could get, but there was no choice there, right? The choice was, do I want to fight the Big Daddy or not?
Yeah.
I think once we got into the realm of, they have to be empathetic, the player has to have some feeling towards them, which you're not going to get from slugs. Right. Then we start seeing that opportunity there of like, okay, nobody's going to want to do harm to these girls, or do they? Like, and do we allow them to? It was we weren't comfortable with it at first when it first came up that we could.
I think it was important that it was a way to reflect the sort of larger economic questions of a world like Rapture, where where the economy drives everything. Are there any limits to economic decision making versus moral decision making? Because that's sort of what the Randian notion is that it's not the role that you don't sort of legislate morality. Let's try to take that to an extreme and see where that ends up. And Little Sisters sort of became that. And in this world, they became a commodity. And the question we have for the players, are you willing, they're a commodity to you as well, potentially. Do you want to participate in the commodification? There was, I think, a fair amount of nervousness internally at the publisher about it for a little while, but pretty quickly they were able to sort of say, look, we trust you guys and go, do this. And I only had a few, the press, and this sort of happens over and over again. The games press worried a ton about it and would wring their hands about it. They ever recognized it was a setting topic, but that it was done to a larger purpose, that it wasn't just sort of like, hey, this is the game where you kill children. And
whatever, and that was a sensitivity. I know that you guys wanted to call them little sisters, not little girls, and it wasn't, it wasn't killing them, it was harvesting them. And I mean, you did some things probably on purpose, right, to sort of you weren't doing anything vicious to them, right?
Well, I mean, you do sort of, they do sort of disappear out of you, and a big slug out of their belly, comes up that you. Well, we didn't want that to be graphic. We wanted to be very clear that you were killing them. Yeah. But it was not intended to be a prurient in terms of, hey, this is a simulation of pulling a sea slug out of a little girl's belly. But we wanted you to understand that you were making a very diabolical moral economic pact there. And we think that came across, and I think it came across well enough. And I think the test of how well it came across is, I think most people didn't really thought of it as am I willing to do this thing or not?
Right.
And people would tell us stories how their girlfriend saw them harvesting, and then they literally slept on the couch that night.
Right.
And that's an interesting, that was interesting how people connected to a 3D mesh that's really no different than any other 3D mesh in the world. This little sister stuff.
Tohle to bylo dobrý, to jsme se tam probudili.
A virtual 3D asset, right? That
a to kompletní uvědomění.
Who's an adult woman, and nobody was actually getting harmed, but people still emotionally connected to them and made an emotional connection.
And also, I think when you're playing, you don't really know what the impact of that choice is.
Yes.
And that's sort of the curiosity of you're a gamer, so it's like, am I going to game the system? Which one should I pick? How does this impact things? As you go through the game, it's never really fully clear what that choice is going to lead to, right? And the ambiguousness of that was something you wanted to sort of create mystery around throughout the game?
Yeah, we went back and forth a lot about what the rewards for harvesting versus saving would be, and actually I think we should have really pushed further that the rewards for saving were much more, should have been much more meager than the rewards for harvesting, just to really sort of push you up against the wall and say, are you going to stick by your moral guns here? Because you're going to pay for it. Because that's usually the way life is, right? It's always harder to take a moral path than it is to take an amoral path. But there's incentives to take amoral paths because it's the easier path.
Tohle jsme vlastně nikdy neviděli. Protože jsme ji nevytěžili, ale zachránili.
As we know now, there were sort of two endings that were affected by that choice, and that was something at the time. I know you said publicly that you weren't in favor of sort of having two endings. Was that in part because the game is about not having choice, or did you think that the two endings were? I don't know. I'm interested for narratively, why you didn't want to go that path.
It seemed forced, given that the game really sort of almost made a joke. I mean, a meta commentary joke about the lack of agency in games, the lack of meaning of those choices, given that you have these two endings. I guess you could make an argument that, well, you were free, you were given choice of once Ryan's dead, and that's really what it's about. But I think we also didn't really have enough time to execute on those super well. I was pretty happy with how the happier one came out, with the sort of little sister focus, but it's a much more subtle story than I would have time to tell about your slow descent into, moral chaos and dissolute living and all the things that sort of come along with a life that is sort of separate from a moral structure. It's a long story.
And that's what, I mean, you were just switching a cutscene. It wasn't like you were doing sort of a whole other level that was different or something. So the choice was...
There's two cutscenes with very tight time and economic
Or just start a nuclear war.
Yes. And that's not, you know,
you're a
that's,
nice guy, or you start a nuclear
yeah,
war.
and because we had so many problems on our plate, that was something I had to sort of do in the spare time. So I was pretty happy with one, but not very happy with the other.
I know you had said publicly before that there was another sort of more ambiguous ending that you had originally planned, or what would you have done?
There was a notion of an ambiguous ending, in which if I just wrote one, I would have found a way that would just talk about the moral ambiguity of the world rather than the sort of, you know, positive or negative, because it is such a, look, I think we really tried with BioShock not to sort of make a game about good and evil. It's really about circumstances and what circumstances lead people to. Right. And how they delude themselves with ideology to do things that they would think are evil, but it's okay because it's for the good cause. Right. And that's what I probably would have. If I just had one to write, I'd probably focus more on that. You know, how difficult it is to sort of align when you start being driven by ideology rather than being in the moment and thinking about the impact of what you're doing.
Right. Sean, you talked to gamers, I'm sure, over the years. Did you ever get a sense of how many people harvested versus saved, and was there any sort of data? I mean, this is before the days where you get telemetry and data on like what people picked and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, it seems like more people saving Little Sisters. Although, I have a few friends that are. I just harvested every single one. I wanted to see what happened. So I mean, I don't know if that was more, you know, the game developer and them trying to see, you know, what would happen, but certainly for the most part, I think most people. Which I guess is a good thing. It means that maybe people are good at heart. You know, they kind of feel bad. They want to save the Little Sisters. So, yeah, I'll say it. You know, the needles.
Jo, to by mě zajímalo, co by se stalo, kdyby jsme těžili. Jestli by nám vlastně pomáhali, nebo ne.
Hurry, hurry, Mr. Bubbles.
Tak, střelec v hlubinách.
One of the biggest challenges Irrational faced when developing BioShock was figuring out a way to retain the feeling of a deep RPG while making the game accessible to a broader console audience. Ultimately, the team succeeded in creating an intricate system of weapon and character upgrades that gave the player choice and customization while keeping the gameplay fast, lean, and engaging. One of the hallmarks of BioShock, to me at least, was that it really blended RPG and sort of first-person action game together in a way that, you know, is sort of standard today, but a decade ago was really pretty revolutionary. And I know for the team, I think at some point it became clear that you wanted this to work on consoles, not on PC, right?
Well, both, yeah.
Yeah. But so the idea of, you know, doing a console game and a PC game, and doing something that sort of felt like a shooter but had much more depth. And I know in some of the early design docs you talked about sort of creating an FPS plus versus an RPG light. What was the difference in your mind between those two?
I think for us, the big difference between System Shock and BioShock ended up being that System Shock was more about your character growth and BioShock was more about the environment. Because with System Shock, we really didn't have System Shock 2. We didn't really have...
Tenhle to asi mě úplně nezajímá. Kontrola reality.
The moment you boot up BioShock, you can feel the story grab hold of you. A plane crashes at sea, a mysterious lighthouse, a sprawling city beneath the ocean. Hooking the player from the first touch without overwhelming him with convoluted RPG mechanics was key to the success of the game and the skillful ramping up of BioShock's legendary gameplay. BioShock has an amazing opening sequence that I can't imagine the game without it, with you know, the plane and sort of the crash. But I understand that didn't come online until like the very end of development. Sean, is that true?
We had a couple of really depressing playtests. We had built all these systems. We thought we were doing a good job of like giving basically people a playground to play with and things to do. And when we had a playtest, we didn't realize how bad of a job we were doing in exposing those systems to the player, because we were so in in these systems and in our own heads, we had no idea that we just weren't facing them towards the player at all. So after that playtest, we took a long, cold look at what we were doing and realized that we had to we were confident enough in the systems that they were going to be fun and meaningful to the player, but we really had to think about how we were going to introduce these systems to the player, and in such a way that they understand why the systems were there. Like, you can't ship a README file with the game and expect people to read it. Like, it has to be part of the experience. So the challenge is, how do you introduce people to these systems, but do it in such a way that it fits within the narrative? So we had to integrate all of these things into the story cleanly so that the player felt like it was one smooth experience. And I think the zap 'em and whack 'em thing was one of those.
And the 1-2 punch.
Yeah, the 1-2 punch that came out of that.
The plane sequence at the beginning, I heard a story that like a programmer put that together in like a day or two, and it was a very last minute thing, right?
It was. So we had done a focus test, and we had. It was one of the most depressing experiences of my life because we were very close to being finished, and it was basically giving people what essentially became the demo, and people played it, and it was in Boston, and we were sort of behind these glass windows, all these sort of Boston guys, like, this is a wicked piece of shit. They hated it, and they were making fun of it, and they were saying, it's like watching some guys and dolls beating each other up, and it's the stupidest thing they've ever seen. And we thought we were in pretty good shape at that point. And I remember the focus test guy was like sort of like a doctor giving me the bad news.
Right.
Sorry, Ken, you better get your affairs in order.
Right.
And we all came into work the next day, and we were like, what are we going to do? And we were all pretty depressed. But I think we started talking. And as we talked, we started thinking about, what are they saying to us? What are these people saying to us? We think there's something there. How are they missing it? And we decided that maybe they didn't understand who they were and who their role in as a character, who their role in the world was, because the game at that point started with you in the ocean, floating in the ocean after the plane crash. And
the crash still was in the fiction, it just wouldn't show
you
it.
just didn't see it, so you didn't have the voiceover saying, my parents always said I was going to do great things or whatever that. They didn't show the plane crash. We didn't establish a time period.
Yeah.
Because the plane is critical to establishing. You're smoking a cigarette. It's very 1960s looking. All that stuff was established. It wasn't established. So we decided we had no time and no money so we sort of came up with a script. I wrote some lines, a line, I think. Nate, one of our artists, recorded the line. Steven and Sean and those guys got to work on building this very simple sequence, which was relatively simple sequence. And then the plane crash actually happens over the BioShock logo we already had. But we wrote a radio play behind that with, altitude of the crash. And that, I think, set the emotional, and the people screaming in terror on the plane crash, that set the emotional tenor much better and explained who the player was. And all of a sudden, we released, then I think the next real encounter we had was people playing the demo, public encounter, and all of a sudden it was a very different experience.
No, I remember even back in the day, I think we did a thing on TV where you kind of talked about it, and it was like that night, and I remember that night, like, people on the forums were just like going nuts. And even though the game had a lot of press attention, when people finally got to play it and go through that sequence, I just remember there was this mass sort of excitement around it, and then the game shipped only a few weeks after that, right, or a month after that?
A week later, or a few days later.
It's amazing, like, now to hear that, like, literally like a month before the game came out, like, the plane sequence came online or something. I mean, it was that late. Right?
Well, we still had to go through certification and all that.
Yeah, but it's like within,
It wasn't far. It wasn't far. It was really last minute, and it was one of those things where, like, you really shouldn't be putting in content that late. Yeah. But we felt it. We were so close to having something good that we just rolled the dice on it, and we worked really hard on it. Like, we worked really hard. I remember how much time I spent on just that recorded of altitude. I can still hear the different version of that in my head because there's been so much time on that stuff, and these guys were working on getting the animations right and the
scene was shot in engine, but we decided to pre-render it so that we had to do less QA on it.
Right.
It wasn't going to be some like weird streaming error or crash error.
Wow.
It was just like, we're just going to show the video,
And it's interesting because once you start in the ocean, we had this experience of testing a lot with the water effects and how beautiful Steven's water effects were. people didn't realize they were out of a cutscene at that point.
Yeah.
And so they would just sit there and stare, and then
Right.
they pick up the controller.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they pick up the controller, and all of a sudden they realize they were controlling things. But that, yeah, as Sean said, that part of the plane is not actually interactive. It was done in the engine, but we just filmed it.
Now, as people were playing through the game and you were testing it, I'm sure there was debate about, when would you introduce these plasmids, what would the ramp be? Did that change at all, sort of as you got towards the end of development, about like, oh, we're going to give people the gun at this point, or it's like we're going to trigger these plasmids at this point? Like, how did that work?
So, like, we moved guns around. Like, for instance, there was a big debate about, originally you found a gun in the lighthouse, a pistol in the lighthouse.
Oh,
in the very
right
beginning.
there, yeah.
And because it's a shooter, right? Like, what the hell? And we had a lot of debates about it, and I feel that it was important that we didn't do that, because the fact that you sort of go through a lot of the experience without having the distraction of a gun is important to getting you immersed in the world. Because when you have all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? But you don't have the hammer, so you just sort of had to take in the world and have that feeling of fear. And like, I know when you saw that splicer bounding around on the ceiling, that you couldn't do anything about it, and that had even though that's
those are those moments, right? Like I remember when I played Unreal for the first time, where it's like you're trapped and there's a monster and you can't do it, and the lights go out. It's like that's the moment with the splicer where you're like, I want to do something but I can't, and that evokes an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we kept, moving where the machine gun appeared around and where various plasmids appeared around. It was a real, it's a real fine-tuning process.
Yeah, and it gave us an opportunity, like especially with the shotgun, to really present the weapons, like put some space between them.
It's a moment when you finally.
Yeah, I think
we get the shotgun Paul sequence.
Paul Hellquist was he put the sequence together for the when you see the shotgun laying in the pool of light. Like every game developer knows what that means. The minute you pick that thing up, something's going to happen. But it was still a very effective way, as I'm remembering it, to, oh look, I've been waiting for this thing, I'm going to pick it up, and now you have an immediate opportunity to use it. But at the same time, we're trying to ramp up the tension level by having the splicers kind of on the outside of the light, so you can't really see them, and then coming in one at a time and attacking you.
Yeah. And we had very few tools to really control how the splicers acted. So how they were set up and how the environment was lit was really important.
There's even other things.
A tohle to pravděpodobně bylo
I don't think we had a lot of
lehce předělaný v tom remasteru, protože oni se na mě vrhli ještě dřív, než já jsem tu brokádu sebral. Všimnul jsem si, že tam leží.
So if you wanted to, you could catch the tennis balls and throw them, and you could knock things down. I think it revealed pickups that you could then, pull to yourself with TK. But we're always trying to think of like little backstories that we could do. It doesn't have to be as involved as the shotgun ambush. Sometimes it's just, oh, let's take a grenade turret and turn it into a tennis ball turret.
Because we want to, because I remember like the impulse was, I've been to dentist office, and there's always some like weird aspect of the dentist personality. They always want to get through their office, They always have to have their hobby featured in some way, and so we saw an opportunity there to both feature this, he's a tennis nut, and teach TK at the same time.
Jsem si to na tom taky zkoušel. Tady jsem si to na tom taky zkoušel. Kontrola reality, a co bylo tohle z toho? Svět plný témat.
Rapture is overflowing with memorable locations and set pieces. In developing a world that feels organic, lived in, and functional, Irrational managed to create a space that feels perfectly suited to the story and action that takes place in it, which begs a question: did the plot shape the location, or did the plot fit squarely into a world that was already established?
Tak nám pojďte něco o tom povyprávět.
Let's talk about some of the areas in Rapture, because it's an amazing place, but also it feels like there's certain areas that are very well designed, and that they have, a very certain aesthetic, and the characters in there, it all kind of comes together. Ken, do you have a part of Rapture that resonates the most with you still to this day?
I think the opening is always going to be the most important to me, because it's we spent a lot of time there, and it was all for me as a challenge as a narrative guy is sort of how do we set up a very complex series of events and a very complex notion, and all this, Andrew, with so much to tell, Big Daddies and Little Sisters and Andrew Ryan and the time period, and do that all without cutscenes. And especially, I think, the descent to Rapture, when you go in the bathysphere, getting that right, getting everything right down to the bathysphere, cresting the hill and seeing the city for the first time. Remember how much we worked on the timing of that, just getting that.
And it took us forever to figure out that we should just put the slide projector covering the window. Again, in hindsight, it seems like such an obvious choice, but we were really trying to figure out, how are we going to tell this story of Ryan, and then reveal, so you could see the city beyond the hill.
And also, we didn't have to show the whole transition going down the bottom of the ocean because the whole screen was covered.
Spoiler alert.
I think that's the part that will always be near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was Kashmir.
Yeah.
That was one of the first.
The restaurant at the beginning.
Yeah, the restaurant at the beginning, because it was really like the first art box that we created that was Rapture. I mean, we created spaces before that weren't really hitting the Art Deco look. Scott Sinclair had just started, and he built that, designed and built that statue of the Atlas with the world on his shoulders that was in the middle of the room. And Mauricio had done some concept art for us of that space. And once we started putting everything together and getting it into Engine and actually walking around it and seeing those giant windows off to the side that just showed the seascape and really drove home the fact that you were underwater. It was the first time really all the elements started to come together.
And we actually we had built a bunch of stuff, and we actually stepped back and said, we have to just get one room right before we go any further, because we weren't getting it right. And so Mauricio did that concept drawing.
Yep.
We worked really hard on that statue, and that statue, I think, was the first object we really built in the game that was a BioShock. So we just stayed in that room for like a month until we got it right.
And I think the original concept actually had a tram running through
it
it.
did.
So it was like even more complicated, and that was one of those things where we had to keep pulling back to really focus on what the bare essence of that room was.
Were there parts of Rapture that you never were able to realize that you sort of still
The
mess
zoo.
around at the zoo? People
We
talk
had
about
a
Fort
zoo
Frolic, right?
that I was excited about. Not
Zoo.
everyone was excited about the zoo, but I don't know why I was excited about the zoo, because it would have been a nightmare. We had another area that was prior to Arcadia that was more of a straight up agriculture, forest type of area.
Before we had the bathyspheres, we had a whole sort of subway transport system in Rapture, which we spent a lot of time thinking about, and then just realized that these little submersibles would be a much more realistic and much better solution.
And you were going to be able to move between locations in that subway system?
Yeah, much like the bathyspheres, but they were much more integrated throughout the space, and we really want to support them. And we just realized it was not really relevant to what we were doing.
Were there certain locations or areas where you knew a certain narrative point, needed to happen? Like you look at, the reveal of sort of Atlas's true motivations. Like, was that like, oh, we've got to do it this level because it fits the story? Or was it more that you sort of like, you had the game laid out in a certain order and you just layered the story on top of it?
I think the big one I can think of is that you encounter Ryan in his sort of like, that he would live in an area of industry.
Okay.
So he lives in this very industrial area because that's where he would feel most comfortable. And that we wanted his office, his lair, to sort of be not in some, residential zone, but where he wants to wake up and smell the grease fires and, and the machines and the smoke. That's in his lifeblood. Industry is his lifeblood.
But it also had to be very theatrical. Like if you look at it now, it doesn't look like an office. You kind of know it's an office because the story is telling you that.
Set, yeah.
And we had some old technology that was laying around in the game that would control environment settings. So old system that we had would let you do high pressure, low pressure, medium pressure. And those would affect lighting and other like post-process things in the world. And that was a system that was cut, but because the code was in, we were always trying to figure out ways to use it. And one of the ways that we used it was in the Andrew Ryan sequence, because we didn't have a lot of narrative storytelling tools. We were basically switching the atmosphere to get all the lighting changes. So whenever a light changes in that scene, we're telling the game that the atmosphere is changing. So, and then the preset atmospheres come in and shine the spotlights on them or bring up the house lights when we need them to.
Because very, very early on, you could change the pressure in the areas, and that would change how explosions worked and all this stuff like that. And we just couldn't figure out how to make it gettable for the player. We couldn't make it feedback, but we still had all those. That moved a lot of levers in the game, so we still had the system. So we used it for the sort of theatrical cues of the, very theatrical cues of Ryan appearing, the lights going down where you are, and the lights coming up where he is, because the engine didn't have those tools by default.
The assassin has overcome my final defense, and now he's come to murder me. In the end, what separates a man from a slave? Money? Power? No. A man chooses. A slave obeys.
And there was a great sense of sort of artistic progression as you went through the game too, and that each level had its own sort of voice. Was that something that a lot of games as they move further in development, it's like, oh, we sort of ran out of time. We can, it's like we're just going to sort of repeat this and change the color palette. It felt like, for the team, it was very defined from early on that you wanted each sort of level, which they were levels back in the day, to feel distinct.
Yeah, we had sort of experimented with that back on System Shock 2, back when every Doom level looked pretty much like every other Doom level, because they were just working on the same set of assets. We decided with our very rudimentary tools in System Shock 2 that we would progress with color, and every deck would feel different from a color standpoint, even though most of that was lighting, or textures, nothing really more. But we had the tools to actually, sort of theme levels. I think a lot of this goes back to, I think my first memory was actually from when I was 1 year old at the Montreal World Expo.
You remember when you were 1?
Well, I remember being at something at this World's Fair, which I didn't realize, I think was in 1967, when I was 1 year old, a little over 1 year old.
Wow.
And I was on a theme park ride they had and I remember being at this thing where a big bat flies out of this sort of thing and comes up. I don't know why I was a 1 year old was on this ride. I'm not sure, sort of a haunted housey kind of ride. And I remember loving it. And I think that stuck with me. So the notion of sort of theme parky themes and settings, and Disney World does a great job with this. You can go to Disney World, they theme areas. So themed areas are something that always resonated with me. And BioShock sort of always has had this notion of feeling of theme in different areas, much more than the real world has. Like you walk from building to building, most of them you can't really tell them apart. You walk from walk from a floor of an office building to another floor. It's not going to look any different, but we always felt that was really important.
And there's also, if you look at SWAT 4, saw some early experiments with this, especially like the serial killer's house level in SWAT 4, which is probably one of the most dense levels that we ship, but you were trying to tell a specific story with that. And going straight into BioShock and using the same exact engine that we're using, and we were very comfortable at that point with how the engine worked and how to art up these rooms, gave us a leg up when we sat down and really thought about what stories are we specifically trying to tell. And one of my favorite anecdotes from this time period is with Sander Cohen. I think it was Nate Wells and Stephen Alexander sat down one night, and they came up with a backstory for every dead body that you find in that space, and then they told that story with the props that they could. Even if it was just like, this guy crawled 3 feet and then shot himself in the head because he was sad about something, they put those marks in, maybe put a picture next to the guy, and then he shot himself. So they really did their homework and tried to add the backstory for everything that you're going to find in that space.
I've got Atlas's goons hitting us non-stop and 2 dead mechanics just this week. We need to control costs. If I wanted to deal with amateurs, I would have stayed on dry land.
No tak jo, přátelé. Viděli jsme, co jsem chtěl vidět. Můžeme to zamluvit. Jsem si prosím na vědomí, že když se jedná o produkt, není toto rozšíření vázané na hlavní dělovou linku BioShocku. Jedná se spíše o samostatný produkt, který má sloužit pro pobavení. Doporučujeme však nejprve odehrát příběhovou linku BioShocku, abyste se seznámili s ovládáním a herními principy. Následující výzvy vyžadují ke splnění kombinaci hádanek, průzkumu, boje a experimentování. Každá výzva nabízí jiný druh zážitků, doufáme, že se vám budou líbit. Boje a v týmu najděte způsob, jak porazit velkého taťku bez zbraní až škodících plazmidů. Zachraňte malou sestřičku, která je uvězněna v horní části horského kola. Zachraňte malé sestřičky. OK. Co je muzeum? Vítejte v muzeu zavržených konceptů. Tato výstava představuje návrhy, které během vývoje BioShocku zcela zavrhlo anebo silně pozměnilo. Různý druhy tačků tady máme, aha. Sběrač. Je jen těžko představitelné, že tato kreatura, jejímž úkolem bylo získávat zpět Adama z mrtvých těl po celém Rapture, byla prvotním nápadem před navržením malých sestřiček. OK. Vzhledem k tomu, že sběrač nevyvolával u hráčů žádné sympatie, experimentoval tvůrčí tým s různými zvířaty, které by se zhostily této role, včetně neblaze proslulého psa na vozíčku. Později následovala ještě bizarní kresba humanoidea. Nakonec jeden grafický návrh deformovaného dítěte přispěl ke zrození malých sestřiček. Tento tvor není ani tak zavrženým konceptem, jako spíš easter eggem pro pozorného návštěvníka muzea a je možné ho spatřit v úvodní sekvenci BioShocku, kde se objeví v zorném poli hráči během jízdy batisféry z hladiny do hlubin města Rapture. Tohle vypadá fakt blbě. Tohle jsou nehezký věci. To by mě možná jakože úplně odrazovalo to hrát. Tento tvor je zase. Je možná osмотřit. Tak, to je všechno. Model chybějící tato postava je ten chybějící článek mezi raným bizarními návrhy lidským smyslem, který se nakonec v BioShocku objeví. Toto je poslední špatný model, než jsme našli řešení, které se potom dostalo do hry, říká hlavní hrdinka. John Robertson, poté co jsme s ním chvíli hráli ve hře, jsme si řekli, proč prostě nepoužijeme humanoidy. Nikdy jsme neměli typu původní monstra v oblibě, protože byli příliš neliští, aby vyvolali u hráče nějakou empatii. Čtvrtý návrh ochránce a původně k němu byl připojen organický slimák. Model byl navržen, ale nikdy nebyl dokončen, protože tým obrátil svoji pozornost na tři a nakonec pouze na 2 typy velkých tačků. Líbí se mi jako ochránce, říká grafik Raptures. Začali jsme s modelováním postav a já jsem se pokoušel ho dostat do hry, i kdyby mělo jít jen o statický model stojící na zemi, ale nikdy nebyl stvořen. Další hra vytvořený pro BioShock z doby, kdy co na SWAT 4. Jediné konkrétní nápady tehdy byly podmořské město a biologické experimenty, takže se návrhy točí kolem těchto témat. Tento model, interně nazývaný posměšně Yamahant, bramborová ruka, je perfektním příkladem koncepční fáze před rozhodnutím operovat s lidskými protivníky. Povšimněte si kreseb stojících za modelem, říká hlavní grafik. Jak můžete vidět, jen nejvýš umístěný model byl i postaven, ale i zbylé 2 dávají dobrou představu o jejich vzhledu. Čím více jsme se přikláněli k humanoidům, tím více byla tato monstra pitomnější a méně děsivá. Splicer granátník. Tento šedý sloní Splicer byl raný granátník ze stejného období vývoje jako Stitchy a Hawker. Je to chlapík, který je vylepšen tak, že může nést obrovské granáty, které po hráči hází, říká hlavní hrdina. Tento model byl postaven a otexturovan, ale nikdy nebyl uveden do pohybu. Ještě, že tak. Tento původní model velkého tačky typu mlátič měl na každé ruce sploštěný vrták. Velký tačka původně představoval stavebního dělníka Rapture a byl vybaven zbraněmi, které vznikly úpravou nástrojů, které používal při své práci. Když došlo k navržení malých sestřiček, jakožto sběračů Adama, jeden z mlátičových vrtáků byl nahrazen volnou rukou, aby byly tyto 2 postavy schopné vzájemné interakce. Aha. Interní název studia, tento prototyp velkého tačky, který útočil na hráče ohromným hákem, střílel dělové koule, vznikl ze slov slow projektil Pocket Up Meal. Malý střelec, kurevský rváč. OK. Tento model byl ve vývoji dostatečně dlouho na to, aby měl plně funkční AI, ale tým ho nakonec vyřadil, aby se mohl plně soustředit na tvorbu ostatních typů velkých tačků. Později se objevil v BioShocku 2 jako Rambler, který místo dělových koulí hází miniaturní kulometné věžičky. Pozor, takže s tím se potkáme. No tak možná bych si měl dávat pozor jako tady na to, co tady budeme dál prozkoumávat. Aby náhodou jsme si tady něco nespojilnuli. Tím pádem nebudu si nic moc extra dál pročítat. Prostě to tady ukončíme. Přátelé, BioShock 1 za náma. Do toho v tom muzeu si tam teda raději nebudu pročítat úplně všechno, aby nám to nespojilnulo něco z BioShock 2. A tady to zapíchnu. Tedy. A pokračování někdy příště, někdy v týdnu, právě u BioShocku 2. Uvidím, nainstaluju, otestuju, vyzkouším, uvidím, jak to všechno povede a uvidíme, kdy se uvidíme. Takže jo, jako vždycky, kdyby náhodou přišel nějaký pozdější stream, day off a podobně, v týdnu to budu mít zase trošku komplikovanější, připíchnu, přišpendlím do offline chatu jako vždycky nějaký info, pokud by byl nějaký day off, pozdní stream a tak dál. Ale kdyby nic, tak se asi uvidíme nějak standardně někdy večer. Uvidím, jak budu stíhat. Každopádně pro to všechno. Takže jo. Přátelé, toliko z BioShocku. Nakonec docela příjemná to záležitost. Akorát se mi zdálo, že ten závěr byl tak jakože lehce jakože uspěchaný. Čekal jsem, že se to trošičku ještě povleče, ale už je fakt, že tam už jako nebylo co pořádně jako dál. Bylo to pohoda, bylo to příjemný. Jdem to zabalit. Tak jo. Přátelé, já vám všem děkuji za návštěvu. Přeju vám krásný zbytek večera nebo dobrou noc podle toho, jak to budete mít. A někdy u nějakého dalšího streamu zase. Ahoj.